Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
And when I'm being sarcastic with something, first of all, they don't even know. Of course I'm being sarcastic. And when you see these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, you just see them thrown in, rough. I said, please don't be too nice.
I believe he was making a joke at the time.
They were like death and un-American. Un-American. Somebody said treasonous. I mean, yeah, I guess why not?
The president was clearly joking with his comments.
This just came out. WikiLeaks. I love WikiLeaks.
Clearly, the president was making a joke during the 2016 campaign.
Just remember, the president is merely joking. Before Mayor Pete launched his campaign in Indiana over the weekend, he was already laying the groundwork in New Hampshire. That's where Morning Joe medical contributor Dr. Dave Campbell caught up with the 2020 contender to kick off our new series about the candidates and their health.
This young person is smarter than all the old people I've ever met.
I have found him extremely engaging.
He's exactly the type of person we need in Washington now.
I like his morals, his values.
The thing that resonates with me the most is when he talks about the future.
I'd like to hear more about his foreign policy because I feel like that's a big part of the president's job.
He's an intelligent person. He doesn't speak down to people. And he also is trying to promote the Christian left as opposed to the Christian right.
I first met Mayor Pete on a recent evening in Manchester, New Hampshire. The 37-year-old mayor of South Bend, Indiana, is a Harvard-educated Rhodes Scholar. He is the first openly gay millennial candidate for president. A deeply religious person, we talked life, family, service, policy, his health, and the future of healthcare in America.
The bottom line is we need to make sure everybody gets great healthcare, and that's an easy thing to say, but the mechanics of delivering it aren't so simple. The whole idea of Medicare for All is saying, how do we make sure everybody has some kind of coverage guaranteed to them? If you're part of America, one of the things America does for you is we make sure that you have coverage.
How do you stay healthy on the trail? You've got a tough schedule.
Look, obviously campaign life puts a lot of pressure on somebody's mental health, and I think a lot about how to stay rooted. Part of it's time management, making sure you have a decent amount of sleep, maybe not as much as I'd like, but enough that I can function. Making sure I'm in touch with the things that are really important in my life, especially my marriage, my family, my parents, my mother, and also faith, I think, is part of that. At least it is for me. You gotta, and physical exercise, of course, is part of how you can take care of your mental health.
Diet.
Really important. Try to do the right thing. I think in my case, it's only possible when there's a little cheat day every now and then. But
and when you cheat, what do you like? What's your favorite snack?
We got this cheeseburger place in South Bend that's just irresistible to me. So it's a treat.
Smoking? You don't smoke.
I'm guilty of a cigar.
Cigar every now and then.
But that's about it.
Let's start walking back. Okay. I know you have a lot to do.
Thank you so much. I'll see you in a bit. I appreciate that. Thank you. Tell some friends.
The values of our party are the right values. Yeah. But maybe we got to find a new way to talk about some of those things. Can I look to you to help me make a few friends around this state?
We're here with Mayor Pete. The museum is full with 300 people. There are another 100 people outside. This event has grown dramatically all around Mayor Pete.
I'm probably not what you picture when you're thinking about your next president. All right. Well, then we're getting somewhere. I hope I can count on you, and I'm thankful for you being here. Thank you.
Well, there's certainly a lot of enthusiasm for that generational energy. What excites me most is it's not only coming from younger voters. We're seeing that. We're also seeing people my parents' age who would love nothing more than to support the kind of generational change that's going to keep our eyes on those issues that are going to matter in the future.
Elected at 29, no mayor has ever run and won their party's nomination for president in our history, nor has anyone under the age of 43 ever been president. This former intelligence officer in the United States Navy Reserve served in Afghanistan in 2014. His military experience has trained him well for the campaign trail. He is passionately dedicated to his health and fitness, and we caught up with him in the gym at 6 a.m.
Exercise works. It's best medicine.
Yeah.
Problem is finding time to do it.
I don't know how you do it. How are you going to do it? You have months to go here.
Yeah, well, I got a running group back home, so that helps. You know, the biggest thing that gets me past the snooze button is knowing somebody's waiting on me.
Yeah.
But with me on the road so much, I think we're going to have to make sure that at least every so many days there's some gym time in there. My kind of Bible for working out is the guide that the Navy puts out for kids who want to go to BUDS and be in the SEAL program. Okay. So they got a really good way of doing swimming, running, lifting. If anybody had the time to do it, anybody could be in perfect shape.
How about coffee? I mean, if I don't have my coffee, I'm done.
Yeah, I give it up during Lent, but which is my annual opportunity to reset my caffeine tolerance. And then when you get back to it, you have that first cup of coffee, and you feel like you won a prize.
That's right. That's right.
A lot of campaigns run on that stuff.
Yes, sir. A lot of doctors run on that stuff, too.
Being around Mayor Pete makes you feel wholesome, and his gentle, kind way is infectious. Wanting to spend as much time together as we could, we jumped into his campaign car and went along for the ride, and he shared why he is running for president.
I learned for the first time last night that your father had passed, and I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything about your family life, your close personal things that you experience that speak to how you will be thinking of other Americans and your decision making for their health issues?
While we were making decisions about supporting Dad in his final weeks as he was losing a struggle with cancer, we were just thinking about the medical side, not the financial side. Except for one period where we were looking into long-term care. And you don't want a family to have to think about that.
How have you come to the decision to run for the presidency?
There was a kind of dawning awareness that I had something to offer that was different than the others. As I was watching this field take shape, filled, by the way, with people that I admire. But you could see it take shape, and in my view, you could see it missing something. And you marry that up to this moment where it feels like Americans in general, and Democrats in particular, are looking for something different. And I'm nothing if not that. It's a little bit of a crazy act for anybody to step forward to do this.
Do you think that you could do it, put you in a small, unique pool of people, to feel like you really have it in you to be able to pull this off? And
well, because there's an audacity to it. It's a little bit obscene for anybody to look at that office if you truly understand the gravity of the decisions made there and think you can just walk in and do that job.
I agree.
And yet, all of the people who've done it have been people, very impressive people, many of them, most of them, but just people.
Have you decided what your nickname will be with Donald Trump?
Who knows?
There's an over-under on it. We don't know.
I'm sure he's got a lot of options.
So, Mika, a look in just the daily routine. And boy, I tell you though, you look at some of those New Hampshire crowds, so you sort of got a behind-the-scenes look there of just how he lived, but also it's getting intense on the campaign trail.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. I think what I found fascinating there is when Dr. Dave was asking him about his health, I think most go-to answers would be, well, I jog every day and I try and drink a lot of water and I'm worried. He went right to mental health, which is something that I've been really focused on in Know Your Value, because it is really the root of all your health issues. It starts with your mental health. And he went right there and then went from mental health to faith in terms of his physical health, which I found absolutely fascinating.
Well, and you know, Eddie, for so long it seems the Democrats have ceded the ground on the national level of faith to a Republican Party who aggressively claimed it as their own. That is one thing that certainly is different with Mayor Pete, and we saw it there again. You asked about his health. He talked about his spirituality as well.
You know, I think it's interesting. It's not just simply Mayor Pete. We just heard Amy Klobuchar in the last segment invoke grace. That he pursued grace. We hear Cory Booker on the campaign trail talking about love, trying to elevate the discourse, trying to, in some ways, take up a religious language that's not necessarily tethered to a tradition, but to say that the Democrats, which has often been a group thought of as the secular side of American politics, actually talking about family values, actually talking about religious commitments. And what I love about the way in which Mayor Pete does it, he is unabashed. He's unashamed in the way in which he embraces his religious identity. And then he links it and tethers it to, right, his own political and progressive campaign and commitments. So I think this is, it's interesting, Joe. I think it's an interesting path forward for the Democratic field.
It is a transformational path. And, you know, Mika, we heard Nancy Pelosi several years ago starting to talk more about faith as it was connected with the Democratic Party. But you are hearing Amy Klobuchar talking about the grace of God, Mayor Pete talking about his religious faith, other Democrats doing the same thing. It's almost as if the Republican Party, for the first time in a generation, opened themselves up to a weakness in this side of the electorate, really for the first time since Jimmy Carter ran in 1976, by embracing a man that is perhaps the most secular candidate in Donald Trump in the history of this republic.
And you can read an essay from Dr. Dave on our site, joe.msnbc.com, all about his experience with Mayor Pete. Up next, a month and a half after the collapse of the Hanoi summit, President Trump and Kim Jong-un say they are ready to try again. We're back in 2 minutes.